let's talk about goal setting, a very important aspect for us to be involved in if we want to maximize the success we plan to enjoy in life. The best definition of goal setting I've ever heard was from the late Dr. Napoleon Hill, author of the wonderful book Think and Grow Rich. Dr. Hill says that goals are anything you want to do, be, have, or achieve. Excellent definition. It's rather broad, but the broadness, I think, speaks to the opportunity when we set goals. I have a friend by the name of Jerry Bresser who had a great line. He said, we got to remember that there are no unrealistic goals, there are only unrealistic time frames. I love that thought line. The implication is we can achieve anything we truly want to achieve given a reasonable time frame. But one of the things that people tend to overlook about goals is they make them rather general. The more specific they are, the better they are. The easier it is to internalize the details of them. But another thing that's critically important is let's be sure to put our goals in writing. I had a guy in a seminar a while back. He said, Don, I don't need to put my goals in writing. I'm a good goal setter and I'm a good goal achiever, and I never write them down. I keep them in the forefront of my thinking. I do fine. And I thought to myself, if he's doing pretty well without writing them down, imagine what this guy could be doing if he did write them down. You see, as soon as we reduce something to writing, friends, we triple our commitment to the goal and we triple the probability of successful achievement just for going to document. If something's important, we've got to work from document. Let's attach importance to our goal-setting process. Now, one thing beyond that, back to the Bresser idea, after you've got your goal in writing, if you will assign a time frame, just put it quite simply in parenthesis at the end of the written goal, 6 months, 1 year, 5 years, whatever. When you put a time frame on it, you will quintuple your commitment to the goal and the probability of successful achievement. So that will help us to get started on the process. Everybody talks about it, but less than 0.5% of the employed free world workforce has their goals in writing. Be in that minority, and it'll make a difference. Now let's talk about some of the dynamics that can really matter. Let me give you 5 good things about goals. Number 1 is they guide and direct our behavior. Once we've got that compelling vision out there, we go toward it with our behaviors. You see, human behavior is the result of our human belief system. And when we write down a goal and believe we can make it happen, we're on our way toward it. So when they guide and direct behavior, that means we're developing positive habits. And habits are, of course, the structure of our existence. Number 2 is they give us focus. Here's where we gain the clarity we need to really make sure we're really zeroing in on that goal. Clarity makes the difference. Number 3 is anticipation through hope. When goals give us hope, we anticipate the dynamics of what could happen in a very positive way in our lives. So anticipation is indeed a wonderful thing. Number 4 is they cause us to organize, because when we organize, again, we're back to focus, we're back to prioritization. That's when we make good things happen. Finally, number 5, they take us to the next level, and that, my friends, is progress. That's what we want to do. As long as we continue to progress, we're ahead of the game. Everybody, at any given time, you're either progressing or you are regressing. There is no standing still in life as we know it today. Let's think progress. Now, in terms of goal planning, let me give you 3 categories. First of all, there's the short-term goal. That's 6 months or less. Easy enough for us to organize in that particular manner. Anything less than 6 months, short-term. Number 2 is intermediate goals. Those are 6 months to 2 years. And number 3, long-term, anything that's more than 2 years. So those are our 3 categories of goals in respect to the time frame. In terms of evaluating our goal priorities, let me give you some ideas that I think will be helpful to you. Number 1 is do a current personal assessment. You see, we can't make progress toward any goal unless we know exactly where we're starting from, and that's important. So that's priority number 1. Priority number 2 is to establish and focus on those priorities. Because when we zero in on what they are, then we gain laser focus. And I'm going to give you the tools for doing this in just a moment. But number 3, seek reasonable balance. It's when people get their goals out of balance that their life tends to get out of kilter. And that's when unhappiness comes into the picture and we become stressed, and you can never be your best under a great deal of stress. Number 4 is lock in on a strategy. Figure out how you're going to do what you're going to do and then make it happen. We do that through number 5, take action. You got to be the action-oriented individual. Don't procrastinate. Take action. Now, going beyond that, I'd like to give you some tools that will help you put all of this in a really cool package. I'd like for you to get a simple legal pad and a pencil, and I'd like for you to draw a circle, and in that circle you're going to create essentially a spoke and wheel illustration. And do it just like you're seeing on the screen right here. And then you're going to draw those little hash marks in there, and they're labeled from center to outside, 1 through 10 on each of those hash marks. Now, if it takes you 2 or 3 minutes to draw this, take the time. I promise you it'll be worth the effort you're putting into this as a process. Now, what you've got essentially are 8 goal categories here. Let me give you what the labeling is of each of the 8 categories. First, we have our career goals. We've got to think about what we're doing professionally and how we are progressing in our career. The second is the educational goals. We've got to have the skill sets and the knowledge to take us from where we are to where we plan to be. Next is what we call family goals. And here's where we get into balance. We've got to give time to the family aspect of our existence and make sure that we keep balance in that regard. Next, we have financial goals. That's the means by which we're going to keep score on how well we're doing in gaining financial peace, success, and prosperity. Next is the community goal. What are we doing for our community? If we have a mindset that we are determined we're going to give back something to our community, we're going to be a happier person, and more dollars will come around to play in your yard just to see what kind of person you are, because you cannot outgive yourself. Community involvement, charities, all of these things can pay great dividends. Next, we have our physical goals. Hey, if you don't take care of your body, where are you going to live? We've got to take care of our physical well-being, and that's critically important. Social goals. Now that takes in hobbies, the fun we're going to have. Again, it adds to the balance of our lives, and those social goals represent one of the aspects that can be important to us. Finally, we have our spiritual goals. Now, it's not my mission to get into religion or spirituality here, but let's face it, Dr. Kenneth McFarland once said, few people excel to their heights of excellence without having a meaningful religious conviction, whatever that might mean to you. Now, those are our 8 categories. Now, I mentioned earlier that you need to do a current personal assessment. How would you do that? You've got this illustration created, so what you'll do is you start off with the career aspect, and you're going to give yourself a score. Based on where you think you are right now, on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you in terms of career progress? Compared to where you wanted to be when you got started in your career. How are things going? What kind of grade do you give yourself? Let's say you give yourself a 7. So you put a little dot right on the 7 mark where the lines intersect, a bold dot, and that's your current assessment. Then you go to education. How are you doing on education? And you say, well, I wanted to get involved in advanced education and learning, but I got a pretty good job early on, didn't get to go to college. Hey, I'm really only at about a 5 right now, but I've got a goal to do better. Great. Go to 5, put a bold dot on the 5 where the lines intersect on the hash mark. Go to family. How are you doing on family? Oh, I have a wonderful family. My spouse, my children bring great happiness into my life, and I give them the amount of time I want and need to give them. I'm doing great on family. I'll give myself a 9. Great. Bold circle, a little bitty dot on the 9 on family. Go to financial. How are you doing on financial? Well, frankly, I had a financial setback last year, and I've got more debt on my credit cards than I would like to have, and I'm really not doing very well financially. I've got a long way to go. I'm going to have to give myself a 3. I hope it's temporary, but that's where I am right now. Great. Go to 3, put a bold dot on the 3. How are you doing in community involvement? Well, I'd say I'm probably average there, says the example. So you give yourself a 5 in community involvement. You go to physical. How are you doing on your health goals? Doing pretty good on my health goals. I work out 3 or 4 times a week, and I'm on my weight plan, so I'm doing pretty well. I give myself an 8. Great. Put an 8 down there, bold dot on the 8. How about social? Social life's okay, not bad. Give myself a 6 on that. Bold dot on the 6. How about in your spiritual life, your spiritual well-being? How are you doing there? Well, doing pretty well. I'll give myself an 8. So you put a bold dot on the 8. Now, you draw a line from each bold dot to the next bold dot, going all the way around to the 8 categories. And that's your current personal assessment. By the way, there's some significance to the spoke and the wheel. You know, it's been said that if you got a big wheel and solid spokes, that you can cover some good ground. Now, if you've got that perfectly round wheel, you're going to get a smooth ride. But what if you've got a wheel that looks more like your handwritten straight lines? And you go from a 9 to a 2 to a 7 to a 5, and, well, you're going to get a pretty rocky ride. You need more balance in your life. Now, what if you gave yourself all 10s in all categories and everything marked all the way around? Hey, you've got the full wheel. Boy, you're going to cover some ground. You're going to really make some great headway in your life. Somebody in an audience recently said, well, Don, what if somebody gave themselves all 2s? Well, you draw a line from each 2 all the way around. You got a pretty good circle. Hey, there's some balance. The only problem is that's a little bitty wheel. You're not going to be going anywhere. The achievement is going to be suspect. So now that you've done your current assessment, then you go back and you say, okay, what is my commitment for the coming year? For the next 12 months, what am I going to commit to do to get me from a 7 to an 8, or from a 5 to a 7, or from a 2 to a 6? What am I going to do to progress in these different categories? And that's where you go back through the process mentioned earlier in this video. You're going to prioritize. You're going to do all the things you can do that'll make the difference for you to grow in these different areas. But you see, now you've got targeted goals. You've got specifics of where you are now. You know where you're starting from, and you know where you've got to go to make the progress you want to make. So that's my take on personal goal setting, and I wish you the best in utilizing this process to take your life to the next level.